The General, the ordinary man who became one of the bravest prisoners in Guantanamo, by Ahmed Errachidi with Gillian Slovo, read by Amerjit. This book is dedicated to my dear mother, who has suffered so greatly from what was done to her son, my lovely wife, who lost her other half for so many years, my sons Muhammad and Imran, my daughter Hanan, my niece Imain, and all the members of our family who experienced the pain of our separation. This book is also dedicated to the free people of this world, whose words of support and solidarity gave me strength, helping me to understand that I was not alone. And finally, I dedicate this book to all prisoners of injustice and torture around the world, but especially to my brothers who are still being unjustly held in Guantanamo, and the families of the prisoners who lost their lives there.
Introduction by Gillian Slovo. As a daughter of two of South Africa's prominent anti-apartheid activists, I learned from an early age what sudden police raids and detention without trial looked like in close-up. In 1963, my mother, Ruth First, was held in solitary confinement under South Africa's notorious 90-day detention without trial laws, an experience that took her to the brink of suicide. After her release, and after we'd settled in Britain, she wrote about her time in jail. Echoes of this returned when, in 2004, I was commissioned to write a verbatim play, Guantanamo, for the Tricycle Theatre in Kilburn. We knew little then about America's offshore prison. There were those few iconic images of kneeling men, handcuffed in orange overalls, their faces hidden by masks and earmuffs. But the identities of the prisoners the Bush administration called the worst of the worst, and the circumstances in which they'd been picked up, as well as the conditions under which they were being held, were shrouded in mystery. I set out with the journalist Victoria Britton to interview the families of the incarcerated, as well as lawyers like Clive Stafford Smith, about whom Ahmed writes here, who were among the few civilians to have eventually been given access to the detainees. We heard accounts that seemed at first unlikely, then preposterous, and finally astonishingly true. We heard, for example, of the journey of British resident Bishr al-Rawi, who, having been seized by the Americans from the Gambia where he had gone on business, ended up on that little bit of America at the edge of Cuba. Or the Kafkaesque journey of British citizen Jamal al-Harith, who, having been imprisoned by the Taliban under suspicion of being a British spy and then released after the Taliban fled, was subsequently taken to Guantanamo and kept there for over 2 years. As I was writing the play, the first group of British detainees, who included Jamal al-Harith, were let out of Guantanamo. When their release was announced, there was an emergency meeting of our team to discuss whether we should stop the project, because we assumed that the whole sorry episode would soon be over. The irony of it. Even now, a full 8 years later, and despite Barack Obama's pre-election promise to close the prison camp, 171 prisoners still remain in Guantanamo. In 2011, when the Moroccan-born chef Ahmed Errachidi, who'd been held in Guantanamo for over 5 years, was looking for someone to help him complete his book, my play made me an obvious person to approach. I read his manuscript, which had been written in Arabic and then translated, and, at least in the beginning, I read it as a courtesy to someone who had suffered so greatly.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?